You know something? It's been a bit. We've talked about so many different things over the lifespan of our show, and it a lot of it's politics, right? There's a lot of talk on COVID because that's a big thing. But I want to switch over. We're going to talk movies, and when we're talking movies, of course, we're talking about the politics in movies right now because that's what everybody has to talk about when it comes to movies is politics because reasons. Right, there's a few movies out there that are kind of showing up as things to be talked about, shall we say? And so let's kind of get into that. The first one I really want to talk about is Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. All right, if you hadn't heard, once again, Disney is going out there and changing a movie simply because it's not good enough, I guess. I really don't know. I mean, basically, they haven't been able to come up with a single decent movie idea in a while. I think the last one I can think of off the top of my head is Tomorrowland. It's been a few years. I mean, I thought that was a good movie. But anyhow, they have to keep doing this remake of good movies. So the one they're remaking now is Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. And for those of you who don't know about Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and I do have to apologize for this constant shifting thing. I decided to get some new settings configured in my recording program, and it's supposed to be an auto center. It's not doing a very good job, but we're testing it and running with it. Who cares? But it's supposed to be more to listen to anyhow than actually look at me. Some people apparently need to look at people while they're talking. I don't know. Anyhow, when it comes to this new movie, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, the reason they have to remake it, there's two reasons. One, it's 85 years old. Yeah, it's old. We have to remake it because it's old. It doesn't. What is the stupid phrase that they say? It's something along the lines that doesn't jive with the modern era. Well, okay. They watch really horribly done cartoons. Now, I hadn't actually seen Snow White when I was a kid. All right, when I had seen all the other, not all of them, but most of the other Disney movies. I never saw Snow White and didn't want to. It was like, ew, kissy girl movie, princesses and whatnot. I thought it was going to be dumb. It was actually one of the things that's actually very interesting about Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs is, if I remember correctly, it is the actual very first movie Disney ever produced that was full color, first full length movie. I mean, this was his make or break. If this movie didn't do well, Disney was done. Walt Disney was done. There was just nothing he was going to be able to do about it, and it took off. I mean, it's what launched Disney into almost what we know today. What we used to know of it before that everything went sideways and went Disney Corp, as you know I like to call it. But anyhow, so when it comes to the corporation nonsense, they have decided that, you know what, we're going to remake this movie, kind of erase all the history that was cool about it, and we're just going to completely remake it. Well, for the other thing they have to remake it is because of the fact that it's an atrocious movie. It's terrible. It does not fit any liberal ideas whatsoever. It has to go. It has to be thrown away. Now you might be going, what liberal ideas could Snow White possibly have? Well, for one, there's the whole Seven Dwarfs thing. We'll get there in a minute. But the other one was the one that really got me started on This Is Stupid. Of course, I heard about them hating on Snow White long before I heard they were going to make it a remake of the movie. But one of the things they really hate about it, Sleeping Beauty, ditto. Right, both movies they hate for the same reason, is the fact that Prince Charming, who, by the way, they have all these names for princesses. You got Snow White. You've got Aurora, I think is what her name was in Sleeping Beauty. Cinderella. I'm trying to remember what some of the other ones are. Rapunzel, right? They have all these names, and we're talking original. We're not because obviously, if you saw Tangled, it's a different Rapunzel. But anyhow, the original stories, they all have these various names, and the prince is always Prince Charming. The most lazy name they could come up with. Oh, wonder what this guy's like. Oh, he must be charming because he's called Prince Charming. Whatever. Actually, I think was he in Little Mermaid? Little Mermaid. That one was not Prince Charming. That was Prince Eric. So at least that one got a name. But anyhow, we won't go there. So when it comes to Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs and Sleeping Beauty both, the big issue they have is the fact that Prince Charming kisses them, and which wakes them out of wherever they're in, and love everlasting comes after that. Blah blah blah. But the problem is that they kissed the girl while she was asleep, so basically without consent. Sexual assault. Okay, first off, okay, maybe Sleeping Beauty, sure, whatever. I mean, that's kind of coma. But with Snow White specifically, that's not sexual assault because she wasn't asleep. She was dead. She was classified as dead. She was in a freaking tomb, a glass coffin, when Prince Charming came up and kissed her. So technically that's considered necrophilia, which is still disgusting and gross. Probably more disgusting and gross and horrible and wrong than... Actually, not probably, definitely is more disgusting, horrible, gross than sexual assault ever will be. But not sexual assault. So get the crime right. But the other thing on both of those scenarios, both Snow White and I'm gonna stop waving my hands. Maybe that'll get the camera to stop bouncing back and forth here. With our Sleeping Beauty and Snow White, the person we're talking about here, both of them, by being kissed, are woken up or brought back to life, which is a good thing. Now, some people are going to go with, well, yes, but the reason that's so horrible is that it, what's that stupid thing I always see, to appeals to a male fantasy. That's the meme. Right, some idiot gamer out there, she calls herself a gamer. She was a real gamer. She wouldn't care about whatever goofy thing she was saying. She would just play the game and be done with it. But anyhow, when it came to appeals to a male fantasy. Yes, because males fantasize kissing a sleeping / dead woman, having them wake up and decide to live with them the rest of their lives. I'm going to tell you straight up that if guys are going to fantasize anywhere along those lines, they're going to first start with the girl is awake. Because it'll be, cute girl smiled at me in school today. Or across the street. I mean, Prince, you're probably not going to be at school with random hot chicks. But really? Who's thinking about kissing somebody who's dead and hoping they'll wake up, come back to life, and then marry you? That makes literally no sense. Nobody fantasizes that. If a dude is fantasizing that, they're psychotic. Same kind of goes with, well, maybe kind of with the coma thing. I can't really see a whole lot of people, kissing around a bunch of coma patients, hoping one of them wakes up and then decides to marry him because she, feels obligated or something. I don't know. Logically, it doesn't make sense, but then again, liberals don't make sense anyhow. So, anyhow, like I said, they're going to remake Snow White. Just has to be remade. And in order to do that, everything must be changed. I think. They're still not quite sure on that. They're still kind of like doing some tinkering there. But the first decision they made to change it was the person they're going to have be Snow White. And let me see here. Okay. Let me bring this up real quick. Get you a picture here. Not a great picture, I'll grant you. Oh, these are better pictures, maybe. No, these are what the hey? It's just the same movie poster over and over again. Okay, there's a good pic. Well, mostly a good picture. Let me see if I can find one that's not quite so revealing of clothing. It's the same picture over and over again. Okay, that one ain't too bad. It's not so bad. Let's throw that up there. How about that? All right. So when it comes to, yeah, you'll see here in a minute. Kaboom. All right. So this is the new actress who is going to play as Snow White. She is apparently a Latina, which is apparently, somebody from, I don't know, Mexico or whatever. I don't even know where she's from. Where is she from? Oh, I had it in that one, but it doesn't matter. I don't give a flying hoot where anybody's from. I'm not going to say she's ugly. She looks very nice, I suppose. But there is a slight problem with this, is that Snow White, out of all the Disney princesses, she is the one that is best described. I mean, there is no question about what she's supposed to look like. Alright, so if you know anything about the original story, or even any of the other stories after that, the ones, the remake and the remake and the remake, which really is funny that they're talking about remaking Snow White, because they already remade Snow White. Snow White and the Huntsman, which, by the way, dumb movie. It started off Snow White and then wound up being Joan d'Arc, or Joan of Arc, at the end. I mean, she looked like Joan of... It was really dumb. But anyhow, the description of Snow White, so kind of the story, Queen is sitting there sewing, it's middle of winter, and of course, the people who originally wrote the story, the Grimm brothers, are from Germany, so everything's Germanic, of course. Anyhow, so she's up there, she's doing some sewing, and she accidentally pricks her finger. Okay, for anybody who's actually done hand sewing, this is not that uncommon of a thing, to prick yourself. It's annoying. They didn't have sewing machines. Alright, so she pricks her finger, draws some blood, and it drops onto some freshly fallen snow on the windowsill. Okay, they're specific here, but anyhow. So, blood, snow. Got it. Alright, so there's blood, there's some snow. Cool. So, the Queen is looking at this and goes, I'm going to read the exact quote here. How I wish that I had a daughter, okay, daughter, girl, got it, that had skin as white as snow, okay, very white, lips as red as blood, okay, red lips, got it, hair as black as ebony, okay, really dark hair. This individual has darkish hair. I won't necessarily say it's ebony, but, makeup can do something with that. She definitely doesn't have red lips. I mean, those are kind of grayish. Again, makeup can handle that. But the other problem is, she's not that white. I mean, not to say that you could, okay, actually you could find plenty of other women out there that are way whiter than her. She's not that dark, don't get me wrong, but it's very specific that she's supposed to be very, very, blindingly white. If you've ever seen snow, which I realize people in Hollywood probably never have, even though they've made movies about snow, or in the snow, or with snow as a backdrop, they apparently have never seen that snow is freaking white. In fact, it's about as white as this dress, or, well, nightgown, I guess, or... Actually, I have no idea what that thing's supposed to be called. I don't do women's clothing, strangely enough. But anyhow, she's wearing some white doo-ha-ha, and that thing is pretty darn white, and she's a lot darker than it. Now, like I said, there are other gals out there that they probably could have cast to fit the role, and I'm not saying anything against... This is the other picture. I apologize for some... It got a little bit of cleavage in there. I can't really blur it out because it's somebody else's thing. Anyhow, here's the picture. Here's her little face. And like I said, it's fine. She's not super dark, so it's not that big a deal. But my thing with it is they didn't cast her because she looked the part. They cast her because she was a Latina. Or Latino, or whatever. I mean, I guess Latino is supposed to be guy, and Latina is supposed to be girl. Whatever the grief. I don't give a darn. But anyhow, they cast her because she was Latina, and they want to be progressive. Well, somebody got upset about this fact. Which, normally I'd applaud the fact that somebody be upset about people casting somebody because of some racist BS. But that's not the reason they were upset. They were upset because this individual was upset because, not that she got cast, but because the casting, the progressivism stopped. It didn't go all the way through. Now, the individual who's upset at this casting is none other than Peter Dinklage. Now, those of you who don't know who Peter Dinklage is a dwarf. He's a very famous Hollywood dwarf. Let's see what movies he's been in. He's been in, He's been in one of the movies. Which one was it? It was He's been in a lot of movies. The one that everybody talks about when they're talking about him, the famous Game of Thrones star. Yeah, okay, he's been in Game of Thrones. He's in a lot of Game of Thrones, but I hate Game of Thrones. Never watched the show. Refused to watch the show. Bad show. He was in one of the Avengers movies as the King Dwarf. He was in Chronicles of Narnia, the second one, so that would have been, I think that's Prince Caspian, if I remember right. And he was just, I can't remember what the dwarf's name was in there, but he's been in a few movies, and he's, like I said, he's pretty famous. A lot of people know him. And he gets all mad, and I'm not going to repeat this word for word because he curses. But I am going to read what he says for the most part. Like, I'm going to edit out the cursing. So, literally no offense to anyone, but I was a little taken aback when they were very proud to cast a Latina actress as Snow White, but you're still telling the story of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. So I'm going to stop there. Yes. Are you going to cast a female of any type in a movie where you don't know what the story is going to be? Shoot, are you going to cast a male in a movie of any type without knowing what the story is going to be? Yes, you're going to. It's just, they're going to make the movie Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Who gives a flying hoot? Continuing on. Take a step back and look at what you're doing there. It makes no sense to me. You're progressive in one way, but then you're still making the blanking, backwards story about seven dwarves living in a cave together. Okay. Huh? There's more. We'll get to the more later. Actually, yeah, it's not really that important, but just talk about this. Who says they lived in a cave? In the movie, they lived, the cartoon 1937 film, the one that's 85 years old, they were living in a house. They weren't living in a cave. In fact, the only movie that I can think of where dwarves lived in a cave was, I don't know, Lord of the Rings? Nobody was living in there. They were all dead, but they did live in there at one point in time. But, dude, seriously? It's fiction. Okay? When it comes to fiction, this type of fiction, where you have girls that can talk to birds and deer and squirrels, and they somehow communicate back, so obviously we're off in the land of fantasy. Dwarves are known for collecting minerals, right? Usually silver, gold. In the cartoon 1937 Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, they were collecting precious gems. I think it was diamonds and emeralds, and yeah, I think it was just diamonds and emeralds. Things like that. I don't know, fancy rocks. But whatever the case, they were not living in a freaking cave. That's bold-faced lie. It was not in a cave. Secondly, how do you know that's what they're going to do in this movie? The movie isn't even finished yet. They could be living in a freaking 3-story mansion for all you know. Who says they're living in a freaking cave? And on top of that, what is so wrong about 7 dwarves living in a house together? Now, normally, yes, I would have a problem with 7 dudes of any type all living in a house together, or 7 women of any type living in a house together, if they were doing something, completely wrong. Something just off the wall, horrible, basically marital things without being marital. You get my point. But if it's 7 people, I highly doubt that's the case. But here's the thing, that's not that uncommon for all those years ago. I mean, a lot of people had situations where you had a whole bunch of people living together. I mean, in this case, like I said, dwarves mining gold or silver or whatever, okay, they're all bachelors, as in none of them are married. You live at the work site because you have no means of transportation to go back to wherever home might be. All right, so for instance, lumberjacks. We're going to bring in some American history here. Lumberjacks during the 1800s, early 1800s, when they were out, chopping trees down or whatever, they would have these traveling camps that would go from point A to point B, and they would be a whole bunch of guys, way more than 7, all living together. Way the heck away from home. Now, we're going to assume, or I'm going to assume for the purposes of this video, that these guys are, and you know what, I'm going to go do some quick settings here. Yeah. Let me shut this thing off. This is ridiculous. That's That's got to be really hard to look at. I'm sorry. I was playing around with it, but that's just bad. But anyhow, when it comes to, like I said, my summation, my probability, or whatever of this show, they're probably bachelors, which means they have no loved ones. They're not married to anybody, and so why wouldn't they be living together? It's not that odd of a thing to do when you're all working together to mine some whatever, gold, jewels, what have you. How is that saying specifically that we're talking about dwarves? Because he goes on about this. Just not being progressive enough. Because that's the thing, is like he's not doing a it doesn't say anything specifically that dwarves do this. That's the thing that gets me. I can't remember where it was that he had said that specifically. And it was probably in a different article, because I pull up a whole bunch of different articles. Yeah, here it is. So there was more to it I said I was going to get to, and here I'm going to do it. Have I done nothing to advance the cause for my soapbox? I didn't know he was doing a cause about dwarfism anyhow. Not to mention, I didn't even know there was a cause about dwarfism to begin with. Who cares? They're short people. Whoop-de-frickin'-do. I don't give a darn. They're dwarves, they exist, we move on. Nobody cares. Nobody said anything about this. It says he's guessing not loud enough. I don't know which studio that is, but they were so proud of it. See, that would be Disney. Who else would be making Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs? All love and respect to the actress and all the people who thought they were doing the right thing, but I'm just like, what are you doing? But anyhow, this was just dumb. It was dumb that I saw this. I wish I could find where I had read that other extra piece, because I don't have the whole transcript up there. But oh yeah, here it wasn't him. It was somebody else, some other chick who's a member of the Restricted Growth Association. This is what drives me nuts. I know I made a video a while ago. I'm sure it was a video. I think it was a video. But anyhow, I made something a while ago saying that the people from these various communities, the blind, the deaf, they don't freaking care. Well, now they're proving me wrong. Apparently there's these organizations out there that do care, but they're so dang small that I'm still pretty convinced that they're, 5 or 6 people that all have to, make a hullabaloo. Here's the victim crowd. And the rest of them say, I don't give a darn. And in fact, I do have somebody like that here in a minute. But anyhow, so one female who is a member of the Restricted Growth Association, because, we don't want to say midget and dwarf. That's rude, apparently. I very much stand with Peter Dinklage on the disappointment and irritation towards Disney for the remake of Snow White. Again, you've never seen the movie. You have no idea what's in it. Shut up. As a 46-year-old woman with restricted growth, aka I'm short, this story has always had a negative impact on me. How? It was about female. It was the only female in there. Okay, there's 2 females in there. Technically 3 if you want to count Snow White's mom, but that doesn't really matter because she's dead within the first 10 minutes. But you have the Evil Witch and Snow White. Those are the only 2 girls there, so who cares about this? Not just the physical characteristics. They're dwarves. Again, how is that rude to say, hey, guess what? There's dwarves. Whatever. But the labeling of dopey and bashful were not helpful in the playground. You were bullied because of a 1937 movie? My gosh, grow up. This is ridiculous. And okay, so somebody labeled her as being dopey or bashful. They're not titles. Those are the names of the dwarves. For whatever reason, that's what they named them. Who cares what their name? I don't even know if the original story had them named at all. It was just 7 dwarves. That was it, or 7 little men, as Snow. I think she actually even said, she just called, like in the actual story, she just called them little men. She never. I don't think she ever said the word dwarf. But everybody, like the what's the word I'm looking for here? The Grimm brothers, they said dwarves, but I don't think they ever had her say dwarf. She just said little men all the time, so it wasn't even like she was being all that mean to them. But anyhow, but whatever the case, I don't think they ever actually had names in the original story. That was just something Disney came up with. just some goofy things to call them, and they had those characteristics. Bashful was bashful, Dopey was kind of a goofball, Sleepy was falling asleep, Grumpy was always angry. What? Who cares? Whatever. Nobody cared. It was just, again, being lazy with the naming of things. I mean, you had Prince Charming. Yeah, real hard to figure out which one that one was. Just like throw things together, we'll come up with something better later, and thought it was funny and lived with it. Nobody cared. So if you're being called Dopey and Bashful, it's because you're being bullied on the playground by other 4-year-olds. What do you freaking do? If you were a normal-sized person, they would have come up with a different thing to insult you with. Jeez. Grow up. And I don't mean up in height, just grow up in maturity, you weirdo. People with restricted growth are in majority born to average height parents. I don't think anybody's arguing that point. They never live in gingerbread houses, have little bare beds, nor live in homogenous groups together. Okay, I already hit this point, but let's hit the rest of them. So they never live in gingerbread houses. There was no gingerbread house in that movie. The original 1937 film did not have a house made out of gingerbread. It was a small house, it was a small cottage, yes, but guess what? So was every other freaking house in that time period in Germany. They all looked like that. Had little bear beds. What? What is this, freaking, Goldilocks? No. Are you telling me that dwarfs go out and buy queen-size beds? Just queen-size, king-size, whatever. Why would you buy a bed that's way bigger than you are? Especially since they're usually way more expensive. If I was a dwarf, I'd probably buy a kid's bed because it's cheaper. Not because, who cares? And then again, not live in homogenous groups together. We're not saying dwarves lives in homogenous groups together. That was one movie that had that. And the reason, again, like I said, they had it is because they're all working together. Golly, what a bunch of freaking morons. So anyhow, this is just the thing that makes me mad. But like I said, not everybody in the dwarf community apparently is all that irritated, because there's another dwarf out there who is named Dylan Paulstall, who apparently is a WWE star, which I find hilarious that there's a dwarf who does WWE. But whatever, and then apparently was on the movie Muppets Most Wanted. But anyhow, apparently quite a few dwarves are very upset with Peter Dinklage because they're like, but they could cast me. I don't get a whole lot of rules. I want to be in a movie. So he had this other thing about, well, actually, I'm going to read all of it. So, it makes me so sick to my stomach to think that there are 7 roles for dwarves that can't get normal acting roles, or very few and far between roles, and now they're gone because of this guy. So, here was a movie that was definitely going to have roles for dwarves. And how many movies can you think of that have roles specifically for dwarves? I can tell you not very many. I've already listed them. You've got obviously Lord of the Rings, which this guy actually makes the error of saying that he was in Lord of the Rings. I'm pretty sure Peter Dinklage was not in Lord of the Rings. Let me double check that while I'm speaking here. But anyhow, when it comes to the other movies, just Peter Dinklage has been in, besides, so you had the, you had Game of Thrones, of course. You had whichever, I think it was Endgame that he was in as the Dwarf King, which, by the way, was a dwarf. Oh yeah, that's right. He wasn't in one of the X-Men movies. See, that was one of those things that was I was just kind of irritated with a little bit, because he was in Days of Future Past as, what was the guy's name? Trying to find the actual, Dr. Boulevard Trask, who was a normal size. He wasn't a dwarf in the comic books, but they decided to cast Peter Dinklage as him for whatever reason. Okay, cool. So they had that. He also played in Underdog as the main bad guy in there. So this guy did definitely take on, but there's not a ton of these roles out there that have somebody that's a dwarf in it. Like I said, with that one, they just took a dwarf and threw him in there. It wasn't a role made for a dwarf. They just threw him in because, what the grief? Why not? It'll be cool. I mean, I wasn't all that keen on it. I was like, whatever. But it's Peter Dinklage. They're probably just casting Peter Dinklage, not to have some. I didn't think at all about the fact that the only reason they cast him was because he was Dorf. That wasn't my thought at all. It's because I thought he was a decent actor. So whatever. Now I think he's a freaking moron. But he's who knows who's pulling on his chain right now. Who knows? Could be that somebody's paying him to say all this BS. Because like I said, I didn't even know he was on a soapbox advocating for Dorf rights because I didn't know Dorfs didn't have rights. But anyhow, this other guy, this Dylan Postel, brings up a very fair point about the fact that dwarves don't exactly have a ton of roles, so anything they're going to get, they're okay with. Some people would be very upset that I say this, they say this. It kind of sounds like slave labor or whatever, but really, when you're an actor of any type, you'll take whatever roles you can get. You can't exactly just say, yeah, I'll be in that movie. But anyhow, Peter Dinklage is probably the biggest dwarf actor probably of all time. Peter Dinklage is the biggest dwarf actor probably of all time, but it doesn't make him King Dwarf. Now, I find this entire sentence funny. Biggest dwarf actor. Get it? Oxymoronic, biggest dwarf. I find it funny. Maybe he specifically phrased it that way just to be funny. I don't know. King Dwarf. He did play as Eitri, the King Dwarf, the Dwarf King in Endgame. So again, I find that funny. When he was cast as a little person, dadgummit, sorry about that. Cast as a little person role in the Lord of the Rings. I don't think he was in the Lord of the Rings. I didn't see any. I shouldn't say I didn't think. I didn't see anything in there saying Lord of the Rings. Oh yeah, I forgot he was in Pixels, but again, I don't think that was a role specifically made for Dorf. They just threw him in there because they liked the character. Yeah, he wasn't in Lord of the Rings, so the guy got that one wrong, but that's okay. Or in Game of Thrones, or an elf, or this, that, or the other thing, those checks cash just fine. He had no issue then, but now he wants to be progressive? Come on, man. My guess is, actually, now I think about it, this might be the reason. This might be the reason, now that I'm thinking about it. It could be the fact that he wasn't offered the role to play in there, and that's why he's mad. It could be that. And of course, at the time that this all happened, Disney comes out and says, well, we're working with the dwarf community to make them happy, blah, blah, blah. Let's see here. Trying to see what other things Dinklage said. Oh, no, this is more of Dylan Postel, the dwarf that we like now. I don't know if Peter Dinklage is still acting, if he's done, but I don't know. It's pretty selfish. People came before him. If it is his mindset that he wants to be the only one, then you got to grow up, man. Again, I find that funny. I love jokes about people like short jokes. I think it's funny. I don't know if he was meaning as a joke, but it sounds funny to me. It is not helping our community. It's taking jobs away from our community that are very few and far between as it is. We are in a society and a time of woke and progression. And I get that to an extent, but this is a fairy tale. I think that right there is the best thing. This is a fairy tale. Who cares? That story was written hundreds of years ago. And of course, the guy goes on to say something about him and 6 other little people would love to get the role, and basically tells Disney, call him, it would be a dream role, and he's begging for it, blah, blah, blah. So, again, it's one of those things I just find interesting on the whole subject of movies, is that here are these guys that they want to be progressive. They want to be the next... I don't really know. Who would be the epitome of progressivism? They're always trying to one-up each other on who could be the most progressive. So you had the one Latina chick that's going to play a Snow White, who I don't really think fits the role all that well, but you could go worse, right? I suppose. You could go with Oprah. Or Whoopi Goldberg, right? Whoopi Goldberg just got fired for saying that Holocaust was not about race. I would love to talk more about that, but that is enough for this show. Still funny. The next movie to talk about here is what is the movie going to be called? I guess I didn't even see. Oh, it's just the movie is actually just called Madam Web. Really? That sounds boring. Okay, so anyhow, they're making because Disney, or I guess Sony is doing it. Sony's going to make a movie called Madam Web, which is centered around the character Madam Web from Spider-Man, because Spider-Man has been making Sony money hand over fist. And And anyhow, one of the characters from the Spider-Verse is this gal named Madam Web, who's like ridiculously old, and well, she's blind, which is important to the story. She's something else though. Not telepathic per se, but kind of psychic. She's psychic. That's the one. I remember it was a brain thing. But anyhow, oh, perfect. Here's a good description for you. So, according to THR, introduced in the 1980s, The Amazing Spider-Man number 210, who cares what comic book she came in? Madam Web is a clairvoyant mutant. Okay, so it's clairvoyant. It's like, well, I guess clairvoyant's kind of psychic anyhow. Who specializes in predicting the future of spider-themed superheroes, having mentored not only Peter Parker's alter ego, but also multiple generations of heroes calling themselves Spider-Woman. Traditionally depicted as a blind, paralyzed old woman, she is surrounded by a web-like machine necessary to keep her alive, meaning that she stays away from direct conflict and rather sends others on missions. So, old lady, blind, paralyzed. Got it, okay? We got the picture? The female they're going to cast for the role is Dakota Johnson. Let me throw up a quick picture of her. For those of you who don't know what she looks like, why is this so tiny? What is it with because I'm using IMDb to get my pictures, that way I don't get, freaking creepy pics. Wow, this is terrible. That's just movie posters. But anyhow, this Dakota Johnson gal is can I get something that's not a stinking... Wait, is this a movie poster? Yeah, that's a movie poster too. I'm not trying to advertise a movie on this because, well, then we'll definitely have problems from YouTube saying I'm doing some copyright infringement or something. Oh, for the love of goodness, this is taking forever. The one picture I wanted, which I thought was a good picture, is too dang small. It's tiny. Can I? You know what? Yeah, there we go. We'll just blow it up. How about that? Use some Google magic here. Oh boy. Hit the right button. There you go. So that is Dakota Johnson. All right. Again, attractiveness, probably pretty attractive. What I found funny in the story that I was pulling this information out of is that they like to refer to her as non-controversial. That's the term. Yeah, they call her non-controversial, or is universally beloved and uncontroversial in the Hollywood community. I find that hilarious that that's how they used to describe her, because the only movie that I saw through her IMDb list, which, by the way, the other gal, the one in the Latina in the Snow White and Seven Dwarfs, whatever her name was, I already closed that tab. She is going to be, or not going to be, that is only her second movie of any note. The other movie she was in is that new West Side Story movie. But anyhow, so Dakota Johnson is... I guess I could have used that picture too, huh? From the Peanut Butter Falcon, which I don't know anything about. But anyhow, the most famous movie that Dakota Johnson is in, of like super fame, is probably one of the most controversial movies out there. I don't know how they got away with making not one but three of these movies. But if you don't recognize her, she's from the 50 Shades of Grey movies, which is just disgusting. They're terrible movies, terrible premise, terrible books that they come from. But anyhow, she is supposed to be, or it was announced that they were in talks for her to play the role of Madam Web. Why? Not because she's not old, not because she's not paralyzed, but because she isn't really blind. How many blind actresses are there? There must be enough to make this complaint. So this one has, at 32, Johnson isn't elderly, also isn't elderly, but in 2010, a younger version of Madam Web was introduced to the comics, though she too is depicted as blind, blah, 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 don't give a darn. One of the things they say, is kind of big on this, is the fact that, Disney's been doing a really good job, especially in their Marvel movies, of bringing out the disabilities right? They've got in the Eternals movie, which I refuse to watch, has the first deaf superhero that's been in a Marvel movie, who is Makari. Whatever, he's deaf. Whoop-de-doo, don't care. Hawkeye, of course, which I think they kind of, this particular article that I'm reading, which by the way, all these articles I'm reading come from the Daily Wire. Probably should cite my sources. I apologize. But anyhow, they mention the TV show Hawkeye, but don't mention the fact that Hawkeye is also hearing impaired. They go with the hearing impaired vigilante Echo. Echo was not hearing impaired; she was deaf. Right? Hearing impaired is somebody who's can hear somewhat, but really not at all. Echo was freaking deaf as a post. She couldn't hear squat. So she's not hearing impaired, she's deaf. But of course, that's mean. You can't say that. It's rude to say somebody's deaf. We have to call them hearing impaired. Blah, 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 blah. Shut up. These individuals are upset. Here's this one Twitter user, which immediately tells me moron. Got very mad. Heck nah. I'm translating here to. I mean, it's still stupid what the individual is saying, but at least it's not cursing. Disabled actresses exist. Okay, they exist. Got it. Can't be very many of them. Madam Web is a canonically blind character with myasthenia gravis. I have no idea what that means. Oh wait, no, actually I do. That's a mental disorder. It's not really a mental disorder. It's more of a. It's something in your head. I know this because there's an individual. I will not say who it is. My relationship to said individual in order to protect the innocent here. But somebody I know has it, and it is a hormonal imbalance, if I remember right. So anyhow, it's a canonically blind character with myasthenia gravis. Disabled mimicry is so annoying. Okay. Hate to break it to you, random Twitter user. I'm going to explain this as simple as I can. It is Hollywood, and they mimic everything. All of it. Do you actually think people are dying on screen when they're getting shot with bullets? No, it's fake. It's all fake. So it's not that odd that they're going to cast a non-blind person as a blind person. Yes, I realize that there might be blind actresses out there, but I can't think of a single one. I can think of, well, I think they had, I think Alaqua Cox, the individual who played Echo in the Hawkeye TV show. I think she's actually deaf. I don't really know. It's so hard to find these things. I don't care. She might be. Oh yeah, she is deaf. She's also Native American, but I don't care about that. So she is actually deaf. Whoop-de-doo. So we have one deaf actress. I know of another deaf actress who, I mean, I only don't know her name. I could probably look it up, but she played one character in one episode of my favorite TV show, which really relates to all this because it's called Grimm. From the previous shows, or the previous thing we're talking about, right? Grimm's Fairy Tales. There's a TV show called Grimm. Used to play on NBC. Great TV show. I was starting to work on a blog about Grimm, but I stopped. But anyhow, great TV show. But there was an actress in there who was deaf, or no, I actually think she was actually hearing impaired. I don't think she was full deaf. But she played a mermaid, which I actually liked that episode. Probably because she was deaf. I kind of like deaf people. I don't know why. I find it very interesting, very intriguing how they don't let that stuff get in front of them. Same with blind people. I like blind people too for the same reason that they don't let this stuff get in their way. The ones that don't, all these people that want to cry and whatever. So this individual, this idiot that wants to cry. And before you comic book dweebs get your knickers in a twist, yes, I know about the Julia Carpenter version, which is probably the younger version. I don't know. This casting most likely means they'll introduce the OG Cassandra Webb combined with the elements of Julia, so it'll still be disability erasure. They're not erasing a disability. No. They're saying you can't have Madam Web not blind. I mean, that's like having, I don't know, Spider-Man not be a dude. Well, I guess Madam Web is not literally in the name, but Madam Web, you have to have her blind. It's just a rule. In fact, the other rule, another fan agreed, and we'll get to the other rule in a second. The only two outcomes here: A, Sony makes Dakota Johnson a not blind person blind in the film. Well, yeah, she's going to be blind in the film, dipstick. Or they able wash the disability of the character entirely. So basically, get rid of, she's not actually blind. That's it. Two options, both trash. Or changing trash for the word they actually used. Or substituting, I should say. Stop it at Sony Pictures, representation manners, ableism, Spider-Man. Okay. This is stupid. This is ridiculous. They're insisting upon the fact that a blind person play this role. Again, I can't think of a single actress, because these two idiots to say, they exist, man! They didn't name anybody who's blind. I could probably look around and see if I can find some blind actresses. But would they look the part? Who knows? Because if you didn't know this, when it comes to casting people for a movie, you get someone who looks the part. You don't get someone that has all the characteristics, because guess what? You're not going to find any. And the biggest one on this is people who got mad, some of them. So, again, according to this article. However, Marvel failed to recast Daredevil, who is blind, with a blind actor in Spider-Man No Way Home, and opted to keep Charlie Cox in the role instead. I will explain that one very simply. Why you have a seeing person portraying a blind person for Daredevil. I could do this in 15 different ways. You know what? We're just going to do it this way. Because you're not going to find an actor of any sort that has super abilities. It is a movie. You're not going to have somebody who has freaking, what's the word I'm looking for here? Echolocation. It's not a thing. No matter how many deaf people you find out there, or not deaf, excuse me, how many blind people you find out there, none of them are going to have echolocation. They're going to have really good hearing, but it's not going to be echolocation. They're not going to have half the abilities Daredevil has. So you're going to have to fake those abilities. Now, as far as can you have a a blind person fake those abilities? Probably, possibly. Here's the problem. How many blind gymnasts do you know? Guy or girl, doesn't matter. How many blind ones do you know? Probably none. I can't think of a single one. And the reason for that is you kind of have to see to know what's in front of you, what's behind you, all that stuff. Blind people, as good as they are at getting around in their lives, being able to, not get hit by cars or whatever, they still can't see squat. They don't know everything that's around them. If a blind person were to walk in to my spaceship, they would not know where everything was at. Of course, seeing person couldn't figure out where everything was at either, because fighting freedom changes all the time, depending on what I needed to do, but that's beside the point. If you've ever been in a blind person's house, which I have not, I've never been invited, but from what I've heard, blind people are very, very specific where everything goes. If they put money into their wallets, it's very specific how they do it. If it's a $5 bill, it's folded one way. If it's a $20 bill, it's folded another way. Regardless, all of it is going to be done in a very specific way because they are blind. They can't see. So when you're talking about something like gymnastics, I mean, Daredevil, I'm thinking of the original Daredevil movie with Ben Affleck as Daredevil. For just a Daredevil scene where he does a backflip onto a drainage pipe and does another flip to some other place or whatever. Yes, the actual actor, Ben Affleck, was probably not doing all of those flips. I can about guarantee you that he is not that flexible. But he can at least start the jump. He can at least get somewhat going, and then they bring in the stunt double, make him finish. So regardless, the character's whoever's doing all the stunts for Daredevil is going to have to see. Even if it's just the stunt double, he's going to have to see to be able to know what he's doing. On top of that, like I said, Daredevil has echolocation. Now, obviously, he makes all the the various things to show that he's blind. You know, I think one meme I saw had somebody say something about he is an eyewitness. He's like, really? I'm an eyewitness? Because the fact that he's blind. Now, he could actually sort of see what's going on as long as there wasn't too much noise going on around him. But not to the same, level that we can see, but it's still a regular actor could pull it off because Daredevil would still look at people. Not to say that blind people wouldn't look at people, but he would. There would be some things a lot, would throw some people off because he acted like he could still see. Whereas, real blind people couldn't do that because they're blind. They can't see anything. They have no echolocation. They might have a general idea where some things are, but anyhow. So it's just one of those things. It makes it a lot easier to do a character like Daredevil with somebody who can actually for real see and just pretend he's blind than it would be to get an actual blind person do. So this is just dumb. This is Hollywood, for crying out loud. Right? Everything is fake. The whole thing is fake. I'm sure half the actresses are real. They're probably actors and actresses are real. They're probably all figments of our imagination. Who knows? Right? But anyhow, so that is one of those things that's just starting to get to me, starting to irritate me. So I decided, you know what? Let's make a video. This video probably looks a little bit janky. Normally when I do these, I do them all in one shot. But I made some mess ups. Keep forgetting where my buttons are, so there's some cutting and splicing back together. Probably doesn't look too bad. I'm usually pretty good in the editing phase, cleaning it all up. But anyhow, hope you enjoy. I know there was another one I was going to talk about as far as Hollywood was concerned. Oh, it was Cruella. That's what it was. But that, I think I already talked about that. Let me just kind of hit on that too. When it comes to these movies, these remakes, one of the other things that Hollywood's been doing lately, I'm not going to get into any news stories on that end, but there is that, the other side of Hollywood changing things is rewriting characters, which is something that I've always been irritated with. Like I said, I think I've already talked about that in a previous video. I can't remember if I haven't. I'm just going to hit it real briefly here, and if I have, you can go back and look at that video. But one of the other things I really hate when it comes to these new movies is the fact that they have to keep rewriting all these roles, and that's still goes with the Snow White thing. They already did they already kind of remade Beauty and the Beast. I don't know if they remade the character of Belle or not. The heck did they call Beast? Now I'm thinking about it. That's another princess movie. But I don't remember what they ever gave Beast for a real name. Besides, Beast. They just called him Beast. I think that's why they refer to him all the time. But anyhow, with that, I don't know if they necessarily changed the actor, or not the actress, but the character. But one of the things they have been doing a lot lately is like rewriting bad guys. And making it so that, they're only bad because all these terrible things happened to them. So you got the original one that I can think of off the top of my head, which was Maleficent, which I never saw, so I really don't know too. I heard it was really good, but that was from somebody who doesn't have my opinion on movies, from somebody who doesn't have my same idea of this is all a bunch of progressive BS, and I don't want to deal with it. But anyhow, no. Because you're trying to make the bad guy look like a good guy. No. Cruella. Freaking Cruella de Vil. Her name is Cruel Devil. That is how she was written in the book. That's why they came up with the name Cruella de Vil in the book. It's because it's supposed to be Cruel Devil. Grr. But anyhow, they try to make it look like she's not actually a bad person. It wasn't originally a bad person, but she came bad because, something to do with Dalmatians. Like, she loved dogs, it's Dalmatians she hated. No, that's not at all right. But it's just those things. They keep doing this, They're trying to rewrite everything. A, because they have no imagination left over in that clown fest. But B, because nothing fits the narrative anymore. They have to fix the narrative and don't realize none of us want to see that. And for a final piece, has nothing to do with movies, but something I found hilarious, and maybe you will too. Just like I said, its final note has to deal with the re-imaging of things. Kind of does with the movie, I guess, but I got an email today from Google. Every now and again, they'll send me emails about, hey, you should check out this new game, phone game, right? The Google Play Store. Check out this new game. It is a Harry Potter, some kind of dueling game. I think it's like one of those card games. I have I'm going to cast this spell or use this character. I don't know. I was kind of flipping through it. Didn't really have a whole lot of information for me. But the thing that they were trying to do, their selling point, the point that came in the subject line, like top-rated game, is not abnormal. However, what was abnormal was what came after that. So, top-rated game in China. What? First off, they have cell phones in China. They can play your games in China. The only way I can see that is the Olympics are in China right now. Maybe they're downloading/playing in China while they're waiting for the next event. I don't know. But something tells me that it's probably not the normal people, because the normal people aren't allowed to have cell phones or can't afford to have cell phones or whatever. So I'm kind of not buying this story. But on the other piece, you thought your selling point to Americans was to say this is the top-rated game in China. No, that is a good way for most Americans to say, I don't want anything to do with it. Especially, good old boys like me, maybe good old boys and gals like you, where, anything China you don't want anything to do with. I mean, sure, there's a lot of us out there, I gotta buy this made in China garbage because it's all I got, right? Nobody else is making it. And if it was, a game that was made in China, grumble, I'll still play it. They still make some decent stuff every now and again. Well, hardware products, I don't know anything about software. Some people think that. I think all of their hardware and software is trash. But regardless, that's not what it said. It wasn't made in China. It was the most popular game in China. Most of us are immediately going to see that and go, well, then I don't want anything to do with it. I don't want to play a game just out of spite. We're going to immediately just shut it off. Nope, not going to look at it and think about it, because we just don't like China. Most Americans, that's the thing that Google and Disney and all them other clowns don't seem to understand, is people don't like, or Americans don't like China. Now, if you'd said it was the most popular game in Britain, there's a pretty good chance people wouldn't pick that one up either. Because we're not British, we're Americans. We don't want anything to do with British. Throw out the rest of them. Ireland, Germany, Japan. Well, maybe Japan. There's a lot of people who are really happy with Japan stuff, the anime garbage. So maybe Japan will work. But all the rest of the countries, most people are going to go, I don't care what they think is popular. I want the American opinion, dadgummit. But, again, maybe on all of those, there's a percentage of how likely. But saying something is most popular in China, there's not going to be a whole lot of people who are going to get it because of that reason. I can say, I looked into it, the rest of it, just to see if I would be interested other than that. Other than China, I wasn't interested at all. No, not my type of phone game. But still, it's just kind of one of those things going, really? This is how you're going to make it popular, or how you're going to get your selling points because it's popular in China? No. I mean, you should already know this by now. At least Disney should. I mean, Google maybe wasn't paying attention to the fact that Disney keeps trying to make movies that make China happy, and they make China happy and make the rest of us cranky. For instance, that Mulan remake, talking about remakes. You had Mulan be remade so we weren't so insulting to the Chinese. I didn't find it insulting to the Chinese in the first place. I thought it was a decent movie. The original movie, I thought it was a decent movie. It was pretty good. Didn't see anything insulting in there. I don't know, maybe it's because of the dragon thing. Dragon really tiny and kind of useless. That was funny. It's called humor, moron. But anyhow, it's insulting to China. So they remade it so they'd be nicer to China. China would be happier. And Americans said, and the show nosedived. Because even though something may be popular in China, their group of movie watchers is like this big, and American movie watchers are like this big. They may be getting more money from China because China is, going to shell out $1,000 for more and more propaganda. The Chinese government will pay for that. But we're the ones that actually make the money. Regardless of what they think they're getting, they might get bigger chunks of change, per sale over there. But overall, we're the ones that, we're the money makers. We're the ones that are going to keep them alive, keep them going. Because, we're the ones paying, box office hits, where they get those scores. That's from us going to box offices. China ain't got no box offices. So they can't run anything like that. So it's just, disconnected from the modern world.